Yeah, baby. Happy.
Detectives arrested 22-year-old Leilani Simon and charged her with malice murder, concealing the death of another person, false reporting, and making false statements in connection with the disappearance and death of her son, 20-month-old Quinton Simon.
Welcome back. I'm Cassie, and this is A Wicked World. The story I have for you today is about a little boy who vanished from his playpen one morning in October of 2022, and everyone in his family claimed they had no idea where he'd gone, but that was far from the truth. This is the story of Quinton Simon. Quinton Simon was born on January 8, 2021, to his mother, Leilani Simon, and his father, Henry Moss. He was lovingly nicknamed Monkey, and the toddler loved watching Dragon Tales, Paw Patrol, and PJ Masks. Quinton also enjoyed chasing his big brother and copying anything that he did. He was bright, happy, smart, and loving. Quinton would also say thank you no matter what it was, even if he was the one that was doing something for someone else. He additionally loved dancing, singing, and giving fist bumps. Now, Quinton's mother, Leilani, had met his father, Henry, who she also called Bubba, at a swimming hole in 2019. Both already had children from previous relationships, and when Leilani got pregnant with Quinton in 2020, she kept it a secret from Henry for months. It's also said that at the time Leilani got pregnant with Quinton, she was heavily using cocaine. Shortly after getting pregnant with Quinton, she would go to Alabama where she would give birth to him. When she did, she kept Henry's name off of his birth certificate. So Henry did not spend a lot of time with his son, but said that he was a good baby who was always happy and smiling. By June of 2020, Quinton, along with his older brother and his mother Leilani, were living in a trailer home with Leilani's mother, Billie Jo Howell. During this time, Leilani would end up getting arrested after she broke into a neighbor's trailer and stole $50 out of a coin jar. She cut a hole through the neighbor's screen window and then crawled through to grab the money. The mother would then end up being charged with first-degree burglary, but she ended up pleading this down to criminal trespassing and was sentenced to 12 months of probation. Following this incident, Leilani and her mother were evicted from the trailer park, and Leilani would then take her two children and go live with Quinton's father, Henry, for a few months. Henry would say during that time, Leilani used cocaine pretty much all day, every day, anytime that she could. She was also known to get quite violent when she was high, and would frequently hit Henry if he didn't give her money for drugs. Now, after Leilani had been living with Henry for a few months, in February of 2021, he would be served an arrest warrant. Apparently, even though the victim of the break-in had identified Leilani as the one who had done it months earlier, she still had tried to pass the blame off on Henry, the one who let her stay with him after this incident. Real nice. She had told authorities that the morning she had stolen the money, Henry had actually come over to her house and asked her to take the money after he realized he wouldn't fit through the window. So after he was served with his arrest warrant, he immediately broke things off with Leilani and kicked her out. But according to Leilani, this was not the reason that Henry was not in his son's life. It was because he had left them. Leilani had then taken Quinton and her older son to live about 85 miles away, which is a big part of the reason why Henry didn't see Quinton as much. Henry would say that he had later told police that he had a very bad feeling about Leilani and believed that she was going to hurt that baby, referring to Quinton. Leilani would soon meet a new boyfriend, and his name was Daniel Youngkin, or Danny for short. She then moved to North Carolina to live with him and left her two children behind with her mother, Billie Jo, who now had temporary custody. Shortly after moving in with Danny, Leilani became pregnant with their daughter, Sky. Around the time the baby was born, the couple moved in with Leilani's mother, Billie Jo, and Leilani's other 2 children, including Quinton. Billie Jo's home was located at 535 Buckhalter Road in Savannah, Georgia, and Leilani's brother Paul and Billie Jo's husband Thomas also lived there. At this point, Leilani still did not have legal custody of Quinton and his older brother. Billie Jo did. Which is a little odd because Billie Jo had a fairly long criminal history herself, including charges of narcotics possession and distribution, as well as prostitution. She also has an older son who's currently in jail for murder. So Billie Jo had left for a business trip during the first week of October of 2022, leaving the children in their mother Leilani's care as well as a babysitter during the day. But while she was gone on October 5th, 2022, around 9:40 in the morning, Leilani and her boyfriend Danny would frantically call 911 and say that Quinton was missing. Leilani would tell a dispatcher that she had woken up around 9:30 to notice that her front door was open and Quinton was missing from his playpen. She believed someone had entered her home and taken her son. She would later say that the last time she had seen Quinton was around 6 o'clock in his playpen. So why she waited an entire 3.5 hours to call and report him as missing, I'm not sure. Leilani told authorities that it had to have been Henry, Quinton's father, who had come and taken him. When police went and spoke with Henry, he was in the middle of mowing his boss's lawn. He claimed that he hadn't even been to the Savannah area in about a month. He additionally told police that at the time that Quinton had gone missing, he was sleeping because he knew he needed to wake up early for work that morning. Henry's alibi would be confirmed after investigators found CCTV footage which showed that he'd been at his own home the entire night prior, as well as that morning. On the first day of their search for the toddler, police probed the area on foot, as well as used a drone and worked with the Liberty County Sheriff's Office K-9 unit. Neighbors also joined the search party and expressed their concern for Quinton. The ground search continued until dark. Then police used heat-seeking technology overnight. But still, 21-month-old Quinton was nowhere to be found.
We both left right then. I got here about 3 o'clock yesterday.
And I got here about 3:30 in the morning.
It's been crazy. I mean, we don't know nothing. Whether it's the answers we want to hear or answers we don't want to hear, we just want to know something. My concern is him, and that's all it is. I mean, we concerned with his well-being.
I know everybody worked really hard yesterday, but
And
I want them to keep working hard.
And we appreciate everything that everybody has done, all the people that's come out and searched for him and all that. And he's always smiling. He's a happy kid. I mean, you get some kids but he always had a big smile on his face, and he was always happy.
Let me ask you, why are you getting emotional?
Because he's not here. He's just a baby, and I want him home. He's just a baby. Leilani's my daughter. She's 22. She hasn't always done the right things, and sometimes she does really great, and sometimes she doesn't. And I don't know what to think right now. I don't know what to believe, because I don't think anybody ever believes that this is going to happen to them. I don't know if I can trust her or if I don't.
I mean,
I just know I'm hurting, and I want this baby home.
We want answers, and we don't have answers.
Just thank you to everybody that's helped.
Thank you for everybody that's looked for him,
and please don't stop looking.
Yeah, like I say, we want answers. We want to find him. That's the answer we want, is somebody found him. You know, we're still hoping and praying, and we wish everybody to pray for him. Pray for us.
Yes.
It came to the attention of police that Quinton's babysitter, Michelle McCarta, also known as Diana, had been scheduled to watch him and his siblings that morning. However, she had received a text at 5:30 telling her not to come over. According to Leilani's boyfriend Danny, he had sent that text message because when he had woken up to go into work, Leilani had told him that she was going to stay home that day. This was still odd to Michelle, however, because she claimed that even when Leilani didn't go into work, she would still watch the children for her. Then shortly before 911 had been called, Danny called up the babysitter Michelle and asked her if she knew where Quinton was. She, of course, had no idea where he was and didn't even know he was missing, so she immediately ran over to the house to help them look for him. But when Michelle arrived, the family did not seem to want her help at all, which was rather odd. The day after little Quinton had gone missing, police executed a search warrant for the family's home. They even drained the pool in the backyard for any clues as to what had happened to Quinton, but still nothing. A phone line for tips regarding any information that might lead police to the toddler was also opened at that point. On October 12th, police went out to Billy Joe's home again to search with dogs. Later that same day, they would make a public announcement that they believed little Quinton was dead. However, they still had not found his body, so his mother, Leilani, who was the main suspect, was still out walking around free. This upset a lot of people, and police would have to be called to the home where the mother lived over 50 times following Quinton going missing, as many people began to protest at the end of the family's driveway. 20-year-old Leilani had been hiding from the public and the law, or so it seemed. She would finally come out and say publicly that she hoped her son was found happy and alive.
I'm here, I've been here every day since this. I am not running and I'm not hiding. And if something does come up that I am at fault, I will take myself to that police station.
Chatham County Police have repeatedly said that though they've named Leilani the prime suspect in her son's disappearance and death, they don't believe she's a flight risk. Leilani says that she and her mother, Billy Howell, spend their days in the backyard of their home because it's too difficult to be inside with reminders of Quinton and the fact that he's gone.
Every day that goes by is less tears and more anger, not knowing what's happening, if that's even understandable. You wake up every day angry, hoping that you're going to get a phone call, and that phone call just doesn't come. We want him back in our arms, holding us. That's what we want. We're just hoping that he's in somebody's house and they're feeding him, and they are hoping that, maybe they wanted a baby or couldn't have a baby. Maybe they thought they were his savior. But it's not. That's their best hopes at this point.
Legal guardianship of Leilani's other two children was taken away from her mother, Billy Joe, the same day that police had announced that they believed Quinton was no longer alive, as she had failed to provide adequate supervision after she left Quinton and his older brother in Leilani's care. She had been the one who asked the babysitter, Michelle, to watch Quinton and his siblings. However, she had still left the children in Leilani's care prior to that. It soon came to light that there had been a dispute between Leilani and her mother, Billy Joe, because Billy Joe had recently filed eviction papers to get Leilani and her boyfriend Danny out of her home. She claimed that the pair had done damage to the house, and Leilani had a long history of stealing from her. Also, months prior to Quinton's disappearance on March 10th, the state of Georgia and the Department of Human Services had filed a motion to enforce that child support be paid by Leilani. The very day that Quinton had been reported as missing, a default order for her to pay that child support had been delivered. About a week after Quinton had disappeared, investigators announced they'd found evidence that led them to believe Quinton's body may now be in a nearby landfill. They'd found video footage suggesting that Leilani had thrown her son's body into a dumpster at the Azalea Mobile Home Park, just minutes away from her mother Billy Joe's home. And so, the search of the nearby landfill began almost immediately. As they were searching for her son at the nearby dump, Leilani was spotted out at a local bar with her mother Billy Joe taking shots of tequila. Reportedly, the pair was even getting flirtatious with the staff at the bar. And according to a server, they were having a great time, like they didn't have a care in the world. They were drinking shots of Patron on the deck area, laughing and being loud. It's almost like they were trying to draw attention to themselves, the server said. As Quinton's body still had not been found, his babysitter Michelle, who was obviously very upset about the situation, decided that she wanted to put together a public memorial for him. But this made Billy Joe furious, and she confronted Michelle, screaming at her that Quinton was not dead.
Don't put nothing in your yard. This is my baby, not yours. That's your right, but that's my baby. I texted you and I told you that's my baby. Oh, so now it's my fault. You need to go get him.
Y'all need to get off the property.
I text you. I got you over and over. I got the text. Over and over I asked you. So you want to blame me? I don't care about your text. You think I would hit you at me? Hey, you think I would do that? Yeah. Really? Because you are... I'm nobody. I should not have been out of town. Yeah, you did. You shouldn't have. No, I'm trying to provide. The ditch. I was trying to provide. I told you. I was trying to provide. I even provided for you. You didn't. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. I didn't pay for your family, your entire family. I didn't ask you. I got your entire family. Keep recording.
Don't take my phone.
Keep recording.
Don't take my phone.
Good, you were wrong. You were wrong. I begged you to help. I begged you to help. Put that on social media. I begged you to help. Oh yeah, and I begged you to help. I said, hey Michelle, please get the kids. You're a liar. Take them. I'll give you 300 a week. I'm about to put it all over. I'm a liar. I'm about to put it all over. Good. Good, because you're awful to say you're going to put a memorial. My baby's not dead. You are a liar. My baby's not dead. My baby's not dead. You're a liar. You're a liar. No, you are. You are. My baby's not dead. I thought you was a woman of God. That. I thought you were a woman of God. You got Quinton? Do you have Quinton? I don't have Quinton. You're the one. Maybe you do. Maybe you do. You got him. Okay. You got him. Well, I'm about to call the police. You're the only one that can go in my house and take him. Your kids go in my house and take him all the time. Oh, yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
We did not go in her house.
I want to see your on the news.
Oh, it's going to be. Oh, yeah, it's going to be. Yeah, it's going to be, yeah. Yeah, maybe we need to look at some green cards. Yeah, we did. We did. She's going to put a memorial up in her yard. Quinton's not dead. I didn't put a memorial. He's not dead. No one said he was.
But then on November 18th, police would confirm that they, along with the FBI, had found a set of human remains, and they believed that they were Quinton's. It would later be confirmed that they indeed were.
Yeah, baby. Happy.
Finally, on November 21st, a month and a half after Quinton had been reported as missing, his mother Leilani was placed under arrest and she was charged with the murder of her child. She was also charged with concealing the death of another, false statements or writings, and falsely reporting a crime. She would plead not guilty to these charges and was given no bond. Days later, it was announced that Leilani was actually being held in protective custody. It was determined that Leilani had assaulted her son with some sort of object, though his exact cause of death is still unknown. When she spoke to investigators, Leilani lied multiple times in regards to Quinton's disappearance and death. She would admit to them, however, that the night prior to him going missing, she had taken a Percocet because she had recently gotten her wisdom teeth out. She also admitted to smoking a little weed, and eventually would say that she had also done some cocaine. The mother told authorities that she had left her home in the late night hours of October 4th, 2022, to meet her drug dealer, falsely stating that the purpose of this meeting was to pay for an existing drug debt. She had actually gone to buy more drugs. Following this, she claimed that she had met with her friend Misty Bray at a local gas station so she could borrow some Oragel from her. But police weren't buying her story, and Misty would later say that she had not even seen her former friend and coworker since July of 2022. This same friend would also later testify that at one point, Leilani had said to her, "Maybe if I didn't have Quinton, I'd still have Bubba," Quinton's father. There was also surveillance video found showing Leilani's vehicle driving to a dumpster around 1 o'clock that morning, where investigators believe she dumped the body of Quinton. When police had questioned Leilani about this footage, she claimed that she had just been throwing away trash that was stinking up her car. Now, Quinton Simon's grandmother, Billie Jo, would come out and say that she believed that he had actually drowned in the bathtub, while his mother, Leilani, was high and passed out on drugs. Billie Jo also at one point said that her family was deeply flawed and reminded her of the Shameless family from the TV show, which is an extremely dysfunctional family if you've seen it.
Just curious, what TV show could you compare your family to? I'm going to say mine is about as dysfunctional as Shameless.
Leilani would go to trial for her son's murder in October of 2024. In their opening remarks, her defense team insisted that there was not enough evidence to prove that she had murdered her son Quinton. But it was the prosecution's belief that Leilani had actually gotten into a fight with her boyfriend Danny on the night of October 4th, 2022. After the fight, she had left the home, but returned a little while later. They believed that Leilani was worried about Danny's feelings towards her and worried that he didn't love her anymore. Between that stress and the stress of paying child support and facing being evicted from her mother's home had caused her to snap. It was also discovered that in August of 2022, all the pressure that Leilani was facing had led her to make a video saying goodbye to her family, indicating that she was going to take herself out of the world. A friend of Leilani's would also testify that multiple times while she'd been on the phone with her, she had heard the mother physically and verbally assaulting Quinton. The state would then bring forward 17-year-old Talia Macarda, Michelle's daughter. She also regularly babysat Quinton along with her mother. The teen would testify that she had witnessed several incidences of abuse towards Quinton. One time, Leilani had pushed him into a pool with no flotation device. She had also let him run into the street with no supervision. Talia claimed that she even saw Leilani push her son one time after he had broken his uncle's PlayStation controller. To her, it seemed like Leilani favored her other two children over Quinton, even going so far as to say that she did not believe Leilani loved him as much. Talia's mother, Michelle Macarda, would also testify. She told the court that she and her daughter loved Quinton and were very close with him. She had kept Quinton overnight at her home on a regular basis and claimed that the child was always in poor condition whenever he was dropped off with her. Michelle said that Quinton was sometimes dropped off at her home in just a onesie, and he would usually have poop all over him. She also said that he often smelled like spoiled milk and had rings around his neck of dirt, so she would bathe him as soon as he got there. Additionally, it was very rare that Leilani would be the one to pick up Quinton from her home. Normally, it was Danny, and Quinton loved when it was Danny. When it was Leilani's turn to pick him up, he would scream and cry and not want to go with her.
There was a difference in the love she showed between Zane and Quinton, and I felt bad, and I would work, and my daughter would say, "Can we just get him, Mom, because this happened today?" And I would say, "Yeah, call her and ask her if he can stay."
Can you think of some examples of how the defendant treated the boys differently?
Well, she was working at Bojangles, and she had brought food home, and she fed Quinton loved food. And every time he seen a bag, he would want it. He's little. She would feed Zane before she fed Quinton. Every time. And I just thought that was strange.
So do you mean she'd give Zane food and make Quinton wait?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean,
Absolutely.
She wasn't physically feeding Zane.
No, she would give him the food.
Just give him food.
And he would eat. And then Quinton would be, whining and wanting it. And she would give it to him eventually.
Did you ever say anything to her about that?
I did not.
Are there any other ways that she treated the boys differently that you noticed?
Just by the way she talked to him. When she would, once in a while that she did come and pick them up, she would, grab Zane and he would hug her because he was close to her. I mean, you could definitely tell it. And then, Quinton 99% of the time wanted to stay with us, and he would start crying. Now, if Danny come and picked him up, it was different.
Okay. How did Quinton act if Danny came?
He would go with Danny. He wouldn't cry to stay with us. He loved Danny. He would, Danny would pick him up and he'd hug him.
Okay. All right. Did Leilani ever talk to you about how she felt about the boys?
Yes, ma'am. She just, one time, and my daughter had more talks with her than I did. I didn't really talk to her that much, but she just said that she loved Quinton more. I mean, Zane more than Quinton. And, you know, I didn't question it. She's a crappy mom. I knew that. But I just never said anything to her. I would always call Billy Joe when I seen things that was going on.
Okay. Did she ever, in that conversation, did she explain more about, like, Zane had been through things with her?
Yes,
Or anything
that
like
Zane had been her ride or die his whole life. And she did not like Quinton's father.
When it was Leilani's ex-boyfriend's turn on the stand, Danny spoke about the night before Quinton disappeared. This is what he had to say.
After dinner, at some point did y'all get the kids ready for bed and put them down? Or one or both of you?
Yes, sir. I believe so.
Now, from this point forward, did you leave the house again that night at any point?
No.
And did the defendant?
Yes, sir.
What is the first trip that you remember her taking?
To 204.
Did the two of y'all talk about that? She say anything to you before she left?
Yeah, she told me she was doing that.
Do you remember what led up to her leaving? Anything about that?
No.
That's fine.
Really.
And what were you doing at the time that she left for 204?
Laying in bed.
What were the children doing?
Laying down as well.
Where were each of the three children in the house?
Zane was on his race car bed. Sky was on the couch, or in her swing, and Quinton was in his playpen.
At the time that the defendant left for 204, was Quinton okay?
Yeah.
Did anything at all out of the ordinary happen to that point?
No.
And what happened, what was going on while she was gone on that trip to 204?
I think I fell asleep.
Now, do you remember the defendant getting home from the 204 trip?
No.
And why is that?
I was asleep.
What's the next memory you have of that night or morning?
Waking up, and she was beside me, and that was that.
At the time that you went to sleep, was Quinton okay?
Yeah.
Had anything at all happened at that point?
Not to my knowledge.
And let's talk about the night. Do you remember seeing or hearing anything during the night?
No, I don't.
So let's go to you waking up. Did you wake up naturally, or did you wake up in response to an alarm, or what?
Yeah, I think my alarm on my phone went off.
And where did you have your phone that night?
Maybe it was under my pillow. I don't know.
Why would it have been under your pillow?
She had a tendency of going through my things.
What do you mean?
She would, without my knowledge, take my devices and go through them, and I felt it was invasive.
Why was she doing that?
She had this idea that I was wronging her.
How were things between the two of you at this time?
There wasn't much there. I was there for Sky.
So, you think you had an alarm set and your phone might have been under your pillow? Is that kind of where we left off?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When you get up, what do?
Normally try and be quiet so I don't wake any of the kids up. And I tried to wake her up, but she was... Normally if I do that, I'd either get yelled at or something like that. So I said, hey, are you going to work today? She'd be like, no. And that's when I proceeded to text Michelle and say that she was going to watch the kids. As in this exhibit here, it says, hey, the kids are going to stay here with her today, Miss Michelle.
And what time was that text sent?
5:20 a.m.
A moment ago, you were talking about what would happen in the morning when you get up for work and you try to wake her up, and you said she would be like.
Oh yeah, she'd yell at me or, yeah, pretty much I'd get yelled at.
Okay. By the phrasing, she would be like yelling at you, can I take from that this is something that this was not the first time this had happened?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you tell us about that? There's a history of this?
It's a pretty general thing at that time.
Tell me what you mean.
I would try and wake her up to go to work, and she would either yell at me for waking her up or say she's not going in, and she would make up the time and go in with Paul on his shift. It'd be a rare occasion for me not to get yelled at or that to happen.
Why was it during that time frame that you were able to get up and go to work as scheduled, and she would have these difficulties with that? What was going on?
I'm sorry, could you?
Why was it that you were able to get up to go to work and she was having these difficulties getting up, going to work during this time period? What was going on there?
Oh, I would go to sleep and she wouldn't be there, so I just was kind of making sure that I could get a paycheck at that point, so I just kind of let her be her own person, of course. Well, not let her, but you know, she would do whatever she did, and I would make sure that the kids were taken care of and that I'd make it to work at least somewhat on time.
So there are times you go to sleep at night so that you're able to get up for work and she's not there.
There were times that yeah.
And would she talk to you about where she had been?
I never asked.
Now, let's go back to that text message to Michelle. Were you, before you sent that text message to Michelle, had you been planning on taking the 3 children to Michelle's house that morning?
Yeah, the plan was because we missed the day before of work for her tooth removal. And we both were scheduled for the next day for a shift. The plan was to drop the kids off and go to work with her.
During the 8-day trial, jurors heard from 40 prosecution witnesses and saw almost 100 pieces of evidence to back up the state's argument that the young mother had killed her toddler, then disposed of his body in a dumpster. At the end of her trial, Leilani Simon was found guilty of murdering her son Quinton, and she's scheduled to be sentenced on November 21st. Shortly after the toddler's body was discovered, on the night of Wednesday, March 8, 2022, community members gathered at Daffin Park for a prayer vigil for Quinton Simon. A candlelight vigil was also organized for the little boy in November of 2022 by his babysitter, Michelle. Additionally, a memorial with teddy bears, flowers, and more grew outside the home where Quinton had once lived. The owners of the landfill where the little boy's body was found also just recently put up a permanent memorial to honor little Quinton.
Diana McCarta was Quinton Simon's babysitter for 10 months.
We think about him every day. We pray for him.
But since October 5th, when Quinton disappeared, it's not been the same.
It's been really hard to come outside and look that way and not see Quinton.
Friday night, McCarta and 3 others, heartbroken over Quinton, invited the community to a candlelight vigil.
I feel like that Quinton deserves this. I feel like that he deserves to have something done in his name. And it's always good when you can get together and pray. For in Jesus Christ's name we pray these things. Amen. Amen. We've been through things. I just think that it's awesome that so many people still have love in their hearts and they can come together and show love for Quinton the way they are.
Well, thank you for listening to Quinton's story today. I think that the pressure of having to pay child support, knowing that she was soon going to be evicted from her mother's house, and having to finally watch her own children gut to Leilani, and she snapped on Quinton. And to think, this was one of the only times she even had to be solely responsible for taking care of her own child. I also don't really understand why Leilani's mother, Billy Joe, entrusted her and Danny to watch the kids while she was away. And on top of that, she was seen out drinking and having a good time with Leilani while her grandson was still missing. It makes me think that she likely enabled Leilani's terrible behavior her entire life. What do you think? So if you like true crime and you want to hear it from me, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button below and turn on those notifications too, so you'll know when I upload a new video, which is at least twice every single week. Thanks for watching A Wicked World today. Until next time, take care, guys. Bye. Thank you to all the patrons of A Wicked World. Now, there's even more of A Wicked World on Patreon. So check it out at patreon.com/awickedworld or use the Patreon app. You'll have access to exclusive videos each month and more. Any support truly helps to make sure the victims never get forgotten and to highlight the shortcomings of society associated with each case. Do you have a suggestion for a case you'd like to see me cover? If so, send me an email at awickedworldtruecrime@gmail.com.